Good late afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Henning Krause. The talk I'm giving is a remix. I'm partially reusing other talks of other team members that have been given elsewhere already. So I should be crediting them. It's Amélie Bonnet, Jan Chawat, and Akaki Rasmaste, who have done other talks with bits of my talk. So I'm remixing it. It's a kind of a mashup. My name is Henning Krause. I'm responsible for the font production of the Monotype libraries and for the custom work that's been done in the EMEA market. So that's Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Not much in Africa, in fact. Yeah, that's the title. The title of my talk is Localized, and it's about customizing. I'm not talking about the custom jobs here. I'm talking about the cultural implication. It's kind of a something that I'm interested in since the very beginning. I started as a graphic designer and was much interested in typography, and from some point on, I was doing corporate design, and all of my projects contained custom type design, and so I more and more got immersed into the type business, did type design for a very long time, and now I'm in a management position. And I'm always interested in the relationship between society and a cultural expression. So it's at some point, and you see that in typography, if you're interested in the history of typography everywhere in the world, it's something that is always done by powers. That can be the king, that can be a government, or today it's larger corporations. They make decisions, aesthetical decisions, and impose a shape, a system on you, the people. And that's fairly interesting to see, but then today it's a democratic process, so you, the people, are also imposing shapes onto corporations. So it's a dialogue, it's a process, and a peer group can be fairly everything. So it's not national anymore. In the past, when look at Korea, look at the Cyrillic script with Peter the Great, or look at Charlemagne, right? They all had kings. They had great influence on the development of their script, but today it's a process that's all over the place. That's in social media these days. Fairly interesting. So what are we interested in as Monotype in our library releases, which I'm more focusing on, as Toshi took already the view on, or gave a short view on our custom work, which is a fair lot of work that we're doing as well. With Premier League, for instance, and others. What are we interested in our libraries? That's it has to be commercially successful. Obviously, we don't want to lose money. We want to earn money, but it has also an aspect of creative excellence that we're seeking, and we want to have a technology masterpiece. That's at least one of these aspects has to be fulfilled to be interesting for us. As I'm a manager of font production, I'm interested in the technology masterpiece kind of thing. How does that technology evolve, right? And typography is all about standards. I mean, it's the technology for or the industrial way of calligraphy, of doing calligraphy, right? So it needs standards. Industrial work needs standards, and standards. There are lots of standards. And today we are in a globalized world. That means more standards. We all rely on lots of standards. That's what all the communication we're doing, the technical communication, is based on, and it fails. And when it fails, because we're so dependent on it, this is threatening people. Like this. This is a situation where something failed. Quite frightening when it doesn't work. So we need to make sure it works. And because globalization is, when it fails, is threatening people, the counteract to it is that we are localizing and customizing. That's a general design trend. That's not only happening in typography. That's happening in all design disciplines, right? To give an example, you would not find two BMW cars in the world that are in today's world, the newly built cars today. You would not find two cars that are exactly identical. These are, every car that leaves BMW is a single piece. That you wouldn't find any other car that has exactly the same leather seat, the same options built in. All individually built cars with industrial methods. Interesting thing. That's the trend. That's the trend in all of the businesses these days. So, from a sociology point of view, that's a counteraction to globalization, because globalization is meaning that you, in the end, would receive industrialized products all over the world. But you would feel very small if the product is not customized for you, because that's giving you the feeling, oh, it's just made for me, right? So how does that happen to be in typography? And leaving aside that there is the customized font ordered by a larger corporation, the Avenir Next, it's just randomly selected one of our families, and all of our families are kind of the same. They have been based on standards that have been developing over ages. In fact, all of the typography standards, in the Latin world at least, are going back to telegraph era and the typewriter, right? So it's all building slowly upon each other. And so what is needed today? We call it's technically, for us, it's the version 4 of Avenir Next, and it's the local edit. To give you an example, Cyrillic has special, or should have today, special Bulgarian characters. If you go to Bulgaria, which I did, you find out that they would prefer to have some other glyphs than the Russians, right? And that's Cyrillic, obviously. And these are the glyphs that should be different for Bulgarians. And to bring it up a bit larger for you, left-hand side, that's the average Cyrillic. On the right-hand side, that's a Bulgarian shape. And how to access it, that's, again, that's the italic style for it. How do you access it today? And this should hopefully work as an animated example. Let me see if that works. Yeah. You switch, it's an InDesign example. You switch to Bulgarian and then the shape changes. You can switch back and back to Russian shapes. Switching also switches hyphenation and all of that other stuff. So it's a collaborative effort between the software you're using and us as the typeface designers in the end. So this has to work together. And if the other side, the application side, misses out, it does work a little less comfortable. Gonna show you the next example. Because we've done more. The same thing is with Serbian. It's just one glyph, but this glyph should be different for a Serbian. The Serbs are writing Cyrillic as well, but one glyph, this one, is expected to be different. And a bit more in the italic, possibly. And again, this is an animated example. But this time you can't switch to the Serbian. You need a stylistic set. And then it changes. So, but the Serbs, actually, there are two ways of writing Serbian. That's the Cyrillic way of writing, and then there is the Latin way of writing Serbian. And this is an example from Nikola Jurek, showing which glyphs are exactly the same in both Latin and Cyrillic, and which glyphs are then different. Nice to get it sorted for you, the non-informed reader. And then we thought, well, if there is a direct translation, a rule-based translation between Serbian Cyrillic and Serbian Latin, then we can make a feature out of it and build that into the font. And this is how it works. That's Latin Serbian. And back to Cyrillic Serbian, right? In fact, the Cyrillic way of writing Serbian is used in Serbia, while in Montenegro, a country that also speaks Serbian, there they prefer the Latin way of writing Serbian. Cool, we've come so far, but there's more. Still working with Latin, there is a people in south of Brazil, respectively North Argentina and Paraguay. There is a people that has just a couple of million of people, just a couple of million, and they speak a distinct language. That's the Guarani language, and you cannot write it. Why can't you write it? Because there's a glyph, the G, with a tilde that does not have a Unicode. That makes up a problem, because having a distinct Unicode is typically needed for devices to interchange information. So either you get it encoded, as yet it hasn't happened, or you find workarounds for that. They did. I was there, actually. And they are using all kinds of workarounds to write their language, and of course it means it's not interchangeable from one computer to the other. What we did is we created the Avenir Next version 4 with combining marks on all alphabetic glyphs. So it means you can put any accent on any alphabetic glyph and stack them. But we are rushing a bit through the topics here. We also added monotonic Greek. We fixed the way the Greek works. The capitalization rules work. Again, there's an animated example for the Greeks. Again, here you have to watch out how the capitalization works on a couple of glyphs. You see that the Toshi, I guess you've seen that. And next, still a lot of things more, but I'm leaving the Avenir Next project now, because that is all made to make people feel comfortable with a product that's a font. And there are local expressions for people that in the history the typography industry was not respectful with. But today, it turns out that technology is a great conservation method for local expressions, and people become aware of their local expression. While in the past, people have thought that the internet, technology, computers would be the great equalizer in culture, and it isn't. Let's go a bit more east. A project I'm specifically proud of is, again, a more or less smaller community is the Georgians. The Georgians, that's around about 5 million people. And in the past, Unicode implementation thought it was a lowercase. But that has led to bizarre effects. That's the Unicode implementation as it is valid as yet, with Unicode version number 10 that we are currently having. But there is a draft out there that's changing the rules. That's Georgia. And you find that in Georgia, there are, in fact, 4 groups of people. And they have distinctly different rules of writing the Georgian script. Georgia has its own script. And the smaller communities do use diacritics. Diacritics do not exist in the current implementation in Unicode. And the result is, because of the bad implementation, people have again found workarounds, hacks. And the hacks lead to a situation where people simply see tofu when they try to interchange information from one device to the other, which is the exact opposite what Unicode intends to be. So the new proposal that we've put to the Unicode consortium now has, and that's already become a standard internally at Monotype, is composed of 134 glyphs. As you've learned already, it's very important that it works on both sides. So that you not only have the typeface that does the job, that you also have the application that does the job. You see here there is no Georgian, and that means no hyphenation, for instance. And no hyphenation is, well, leading to these results. I mean, you see the difference between no hyphenation and hyphenation in the English text above. At the bottom, you see it's not making any difference because there is no hyphenation for Georgian. Just again, rushing through things here. In Unicode version 11, the draft is out there. In Unicode 11, we are expecting to this proposal to become a standard. The Unicode consortium has accepted our draft. Bang. We are making a lot of Georgians really happy. For Devanagari, we're planning to release the reworked Linotype Devanagari. The Linotype Devanagari is a classical workhorse, I've been said, in India, or in Hindi specifically. And it looks like this. This is already the reworked version. It has more weights and a lot of more usage or usability. And in case you're not exactly familiar with the Devanagari script, it's a load of glyphs that comes because of the load of conjuncts. Every base glyph comes in a lot of conjuncts, and Devanagari is the script for a couple of languages, not only Hindi. And in Marathi, again, some glyphs are expected to look distinctly different. They have some familiarity, but they are expected to be different. And each of those glyphs, again, comes with a lot of conjuncts that have to be designed differently as a result out of the different base form. And for the Nepali, there is another language. For the Nepali, again, there are some differences expected. For instance, there are in the Devanagari script, there are different numerals, but the Nepali numerals, again, are expected to be a bit different. So in making a step towards the local communities, we're improving the user experience for all of the communities. And not to forget, even in Nepali, there is one glyph that is expected to be a bit different. So once you switch from Hindi to Marathi or Nepali, then all the behavior of the typeface that should then follow to be localized, in fact. You possibly know that there are two variants. You should know that there are two variants for Thai, the modern and the traditional, the looped and the loopless. And we do have, thanks to Anutin, we do have the Neufruitiger Thai in those both variants, right? So you can simply decide on which side of the design you want to be living on, and that's the entire strategy. It all follows the communities, and you see here that is not a linguistical decision. It's a decision of style, and you find that in many typefaces, and a lot of typefaces today, you find, as Bruno also has shown, you find all these alternatives. Some typefaces have so many alternatives, 20 stylistic sets, so that you can customize your typeface while using, to an extent never seen before. And so, coming to the end, the world expands or shrinks depending on the viewing angle you're having. And so the communities, whatever the community is not necessarily a nation or a linguistically defined group. It can be a peer group like people that wear black hats or people that listen to hard rock music. So whatever the community is, these communities want to have the experience of resonance. They want to express themselves. And typefaces are more and more one of the vehicles that are used to express. And we, as type designers, should be giving them, or should be giving the communities the maximum of possibilities to express themselves. And in the past, this customization was only on a linguistical level, like this. You know the difference between the US and the British way of writing things, which is a customization of the English writing rules. And that's it. Thank you very much.